From Lollapalooza to lockdowns, with the Delta variant infecting the vaccinated at higher rates, are events like Lollapalooza, the big music festival here in Chicago, setting up the country for another lockdown. And if the vaccines aren't keeping up with the spread of the virus, are masks here to stay? I'll ask our top doc. President Biden wants to make America's cars electric, but can Americans today afford the cars of tomorrow? And with the moratorium on housing evictions set to expire this weekend, will millions of Americans be faced with eviction notices? There is a late update on that. The Donlon Report starts right now. Good evening. We were hoping to start with something different, but the fact is COVID is still dominating our lives and the conversation. Now we're hearing the Delta variant is as contagious as the chicken pox. The sobering story, a big one just revealed today, a CDC study that found 74% of the people infected in a Massachusetts outbreak were vaccinated. The takeaway? Fully vaccinated people can spread the Delta variant, basically the same as the unvaccinated. Now we know why the CDC changed the mask guidance. Yesterday, the government basically mandated that federal workers get vaccinated, even offering money to people to get the shot. A lot of workplaces that were preparing to bring employees back in person have put those plans on hold. We're hearing about more breakthrough cases, and again, we're back to masks in a lot of places. We've said it before, but a lot of people just don't know what to think anymore. Back in May, we celebrated when the CDC changed its guidance and said vaccinated people didn't need to wear masks. It truly felt like we had turned a corner. For those of us who got the shot willingly, it was sort of a finish line we felt like we'd crossed. It was the path to a widespread return to normal. But now the new normal is a lot like the old normal we thought we'd left behind. Shot or not, it's back to masks, which might confuse those who haven't been vaccinated. If they were hesitant before, won't they be even more so now, knowing we're all back in the same boat? Well, here we are again, and it feels safe to assume more things will change. In fact, President Biden hinted at that just a few minutes ago. What about the new school year? Are events like Lollapalooza, with hundreds of thousands of people, setting us up for more lockdowns? The last time around, people went along willingly and rationally. The question is, will those people be as willing this time? And that certainly goes double for those who haven't gone along willingly. And that's where we start tonight with News Nation's Allison Harrison. Allison, the headline from the CDC today seems to be that the war has changed.
Yes, Joe, that was a part of this document from the CDC. We know that this Delta variant is different. We've been saying it night after night that this is COVID on steroids. But now there's a CDC document that says that this is like the chicken pox, that it is as transmissible, more transmissible even than Ebola and the common cold. Now, what we've learned, what the CDC has learned, is that people who are fully vaccinated, they can spread this virus, this Delta variant, just as easily as people who are unvaccinated. And the CDC director herself said today that that's the game changer. That's what's been pivotal for the CDC. That's why we're seeing this return to the, not a mask mandate nationally, but the CDC guidance changing, recommending that even people who are fully vaccinated wear masks indoors. The president also announcing those vaccine requirements yesterday. As you mentioned, that Massachusetts outbreak, 74% of people who were fully vaccinated becoming infected. It's important to say that breakthrough cases remain rare, but we're going to continue to see these breakthrough cases as the virus keeps spreading. And the president and the CDC want to get that message across that the people who are not vaccinated are posing a greater risk to themselves, and now they're posing an even greater risk to the people who are fully vaccinated. Joe?
Allison Harris live for us tonight in D.C. Thank you. Joining me now to discuss further, Dr. Bob Lahidi with St. Joseph Health. Doctor, let's start right there where Allison left us there, and I'm sure this is going to lead to more questions about the vaccine among those who don't want it. That part of the equation hasn't really changed. It's primarily so that you will not get severely ill or die.
Right. And I think if you had complacency before you heard Allison's report, or before what I'm going to tell you, and that is that this viral load from the Delta variant is 1,000 times more than the Alpha variant that we dealt with last year. So it can infect and it can produce devastation in primarily those who are non-vaccinated.
Right.
Now, you know, the data, Joe, out of, I think, 162 million people that have been vaccinated, there were only 35,000 of them that had symptoms. And those symptoms were usually very, light. The problem is that they carry the virus and they can transmit it once they have been infected. So if you're not vaccinated, you're at great risk.
Right. So the takeaway from this, doctor, because it is confusing, and I have to admit that, but if you are vaccinated, your chances of getting COVID are significantly lower. But if you do get a breakthrough case, what this says is you're just as possible to spread it as someone who is unvaccinated, meaning the viral load you have when you get it, even if you're vaccinated, is the same.
Right. It's 1,000 times more if you get this Delta variant because the virus replicates rapidly. It's very sticky and it is easy to transmit. You mentioned at the early part of your show, or Allison did, about it being like chickenpox or more infectious than Ebola virus. So we're getting the impression here that you need to just be in the same room with the person that has the Delta variant and you're going to be infected. Now, if you're vaccinated, no big deal. So I don't know. I don't get crazy about wearing the mask. I'm more concerned about giving the virus as a vaccinated person, giving the virus to somebody who's not vaccinated.
Right. Well, you say no big deal, doctor, and that's when people will say, okay, then why all the restrictions?
Everybody's concerned. They're concerned that this could be a pandemic again. There are hot pockets around the country, Joe, that where less than 30% of the population is vaccinated. Here in the Northeast, in the Chicago area, in California, we're seeing the numbers of vaccine people very high. But there are places in the country like Alabama, Louisiana, some parts of Texas, where people are not vaccinated to the degree that they should be. And because of that, and we never really, remember, Joe, we never really achieved herd immunity. I think it's 67% of the country is vaccinated. So we still have a problem. This whole thing would be gone if people got vaccinated. We wouldn't be talking about it.
Right. The other highlight in this study today that the CDC released, doctor, is the fact that 74% in this Massachusetts outbreak were vaccinated. So it feels like we're going to be learning more about these breakthrough cases. But the bottom line remains, and this is important, the fact that you're vaccinated will protect you significantly because the vast majority of people who are getting sick and dying are not.
Correct. About 98% of the people we see dying are not vaccinated. There's exceptions to everything. And of course, out of millions and millions of people, you're going to get a couple of hundred that have the breakthrough infection and do very poorly. They may be people, Joe, with comorbidities like massive obesity, severe diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, etc. And they may be immunosuppressed and not even know it. So we have to understand all of that plays into this formula. So I think we're being exceptionally careful with this new mask mandate, the new rules that the CDC is putting together. But I don't see that this is going to be a big thing going forward if people get vaccinated.
What do you think this means for the vaccines we do have, the boosters we're talking about, and what does it mean for future variants? Because I'm guessing they're coming, doctor.
Well, we already have the Lambda variant from Peru, but we know very little about it. I don't think you could get any worse than the Delta variant. And, eventually the virus mutates itself out of existence. There's such a thing called down mutation. That's a ray of hope for everybody, that eventually the virus will just peter out. Remember, it's not alive. It's a particle. It's like glitter on a 5-year-old's dress. It gets on everything. That's the virus. So I am hopeful that all of this will go away with due time if we're very careful. And I just think we just have to get vaccinated. We have to tell people, it's safe. Don't be complacent. Make it convenient. Get it done. Save your family. Save your friends. That's the message.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Bob Lahita, professor at Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine and also the director at St. Joseph Health. Doctor, it's good to see you. Thanks for your time on a Friday night.
Thanks, Joe.
So what about the unvaccinated? Why are they not getting the shot? News Nation's Adrian Bankert asked, And they answer it.
Yeah, it's so true. We were able to talk to a number of different people who decided that they were not going to get vaccinated. We've heard Dr. Fauci today saying about the FDA approval, saying that this is legitimately approved by the FDA, the COVID-19 vaccine, maybe as early as next month might be happening.
You mean permanent, as opposed to an emergency?
Exactly. That still doesn't change the minds of so many hundreds of thousands of people, essentially half the U.S. population, who still is saying they will not get the vaccine.
And what did you hear? Why are they not?
Well, let's talk actually about what they're saying. A lot of them are in agreement. Some are saying the same reasons why people are telling us, medical experts are saying that you should get the vaccine with your pre-existing conditions, putting you in a high-risk category, is the same reason why so many who are unvaccinated say they don't want to get the vaccine because of pre-existing conditions. And the chances that the COVID vaccine might complicate their already existing health problems.
But that increases the possibility of them getting it, as we understand it, and potentially dying. These are the people who are dying with comorbidities.
Well, there's a possibility that a lot of this discussion is going to need to involve more compassionate conversations, because beyond the science, beyond the data, this is a cultural issue. We talked to one woman. She founded a political action committee in Texas, which is Texans for Vaccine Choice. Here's what she had to say.
What we need is transparency. We need conversations. We need truth. People are really searching for truth, and we need to be able to come to the table and have compassionate discussions on this vaccine and ultimately respect each other's right to choose.
You know, she made a really good point in our conversation, saying that employers have made so many allowances for people to stay away from the office to protect them from the risk of COVID-19. She thinks that employers should have the same respect for those who decide this is not right for me, this is not right for my body. I've talked to my personal doctor and we have a different conversation, and they should be able to make allowances in the employment sector.
It sounds like what you found as well is that incentives and mandates were not going to work. I guess the question in the end becomes, are they open to getting the vaccine if they get this transparency that they talk about?
Absolutely not. From what we've talked to, all the people that they've said they are concerned about side effects, and they're also concerned about government overreach. They do not like the fact that these campaigns, these public health campaigns, are going door to door, encouraging people to get the vaccine without any discussion. And the truth is there are a lot of people who are looking down on those who have not been vaccinated, seeing them as a public health threat.
It's an interesting question, and I'm glad we got some answers on it. You'll have more tonight?
Absolutely. We'll have more on Prime.
Adrienne, thanks.
Thanks, John.
Well, there is news today about former President Trump and his bold move to try and overturn the election, plus the release of his tax returns and why that could be a big deal. And with the moratorium on housing evictions set to expire this weekend, are millions of Americans facing eviction notices. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media at The Donlon Report on Twitter. New revelations that former President Trump tried to overturn the 2020 election. According to reports, Mr. Trump tried to pressure the Department of Justice and then acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen to say the election had been illegal and corrupt. The New York Times obtained handwritten notes that DOJ officials took during conversations with the former president. One note, apparently quoting him, saying, "Just say the election was corrupt, leave the rest to me." The DOJ warned Trump in response the department did not have the power to change an election. Meantime, lawmakers might soon have the secrets they have long sought about Mr. Trump. The DOJ saying, in opinion, the president's tax returns can be released to Congress. Writing, the statute here is unambiguous. Trump fought for years in court to prevent the release of his tax returns, as critics questioned if the former president was trying to hide something. Now those documents could end up in the hands of Democrats as Mr. Trump ponders another possible run for the White House in 2024. Also in Congress, the Senate today clearing the way for a final vote on the president's $1 trillion infrastructure bill. That could happen as early as next week. The bill spending billions on roads, bridges, public transit, and other projects as well, but billions in addition on charging stations for electric vehicles and upgrades to the power grid as well. This comes as the Biden administration is negotiating with automakers to make 40% of their fleets electric by the end of the decade. EVs had their biggest sales year in 2020, but reached only 1.8% of the total market. So Will more charging stations mean car-loving Americans will ditch gas for electric? Let's ask Joe Weisenfelder, executive editor of Cars.com. Joe, it's great to have you. You think this works, having more charging stations? Will that warm us up to electric cars?
It is absolutely necessary. There's no question. We've done surveys year after year, and in the top concerns among consumers about consideration for electric cars, it's always range anxiety, places in public to charge, and the initial cost of the vehicles. And what's interesting about this is we know the really satisfying way to own an electric car today is to charge it at home.
Right.
And this is also the most cost-effective way to own a vehicle because you're paying, roughly half as much to drive an electric vehicle as a gas-powered equivalent on electric power. So you end up not using those public stations, but somehow people need to see them to be comfortable enough to make that leap.
This is interesting. You talk about range anxiety. We're used to filling up the tank and then not worrying about it either until the light comes on or you get below a quarter of a tank. You have to think differently when you have an electric car, which you've had for 10 years.
Well, we bought, Cars.com bought its first electric car, a Leaf, 10 years ago, exactly, and it had only 72 miles of range at the time, and we've tested every other type of electric since then. You start your morning, every morning, with a full battery.
Right.
You have to think about miles per day, not miles per tank or per battery. So people think they need 300, 400 miles per battery. Maybe they don't.
I mean, we're looking at a couple of models there we were just showing the viewers. The car makers have done an amazing job of making these electric vehicles very cool.
They've made them cool, and they've made them much more what Americans are interested in, which is small SUVs. That's what we're seeing more of now.
Even pickup trucks now, right?
Pickup trucks are coming, and that is also definitely important and is going to spike sales. One of the reasons you see sales higher is that there are more models, and they are more attractive than the small electric car, which is all we had for 10 years. Small electric car and luxury on the other end, Teslas and some other vehicles. So this is really the heart of the American market that's finally hitting.
Is this something you think is there something that makes them nervous about getting an electric car? And have you found that when they do ultimately get one, those who do, they love them?
There's no question, 86% of people in our survey, and about the same amount in other surveys, have seen once they buy the electric car, they say, my next electric car absolutely will be another. It's just the initial, just not understanding how it works, and the initial setup. Getting home charging is confusing. You have to deal with an electrician, sometimes
you can't
permitting.
just plug it into an outlet.
No, you need 240 volts. The cost varies from house to house, so it can be complex and intimidating. But once you get over that hump and the initial cost of the vehicle, which can be higher, it can be very smooth sailing, lower cost per mile, and lower maintenance costs because fewer moving parts. The brakes are not operating as much because there's what's called regenerative braking, all that stuff. It can be a great experience, quiet, comfortable. People love them once they're in. But it's a very different way of thinking that we're trying at Cars.com in our advice content to train people to understand, so they have the courage to buy without necessarily, it's a conundrum. You have to understand it before you can buy, but you kind of have to own it before you understand it.
Where are people right now? Because if someone's looking for a car right now, and we should talk about that before you go, just quickly about the increase in the cost for new, used, and rental cars. But if you're looking for a car now, should you seriously consider electric?
Well, we think if you are a homeowner or someone who can charge at home, you should absolutely start thinking about it now. The problem is if you are a renter or someone else who cannot, charge at home, maybe you park on the street or something like that, this is not the time because DC fast charging, which is one of the options in public charging, is proliferating. Tesla supercharging is the best known version of this. Electrify America also. It works, but even that fast charging is not very fast. And it tends to be more expensive, and too much of that isn't good for the battery. The automakers all say, let's not overdo this.
Right, we're out of time, but I just quickly, when do you see these prices come back down, Joe?
All of the analysts say it's easily going to be next year, and it'll probably be slow. New car production has to go up before prices will come down on new and used cars alike.
All right, Joe Weisenfelder, executive editor, Cars.com. Thanks for coming by. Enjoy the weekend.
Anytime, you too.
Day 2 of Lollapalooza is rocking in downtown Chicago, but with the Delta variant infections rising and infecting the vaccinated, are concert goers worried? We're live on the ground with an update on that ahead. And with the federal government's eviction moratorium expiring this weekend, are families across the country about to face foreclosure? Delta variant or not, one of the world's largest music festivals is underway in Chicago. Lollapalooza kicked off yesterday and continues through the weekend, despite warnings from some medical experts who have called this four-day event a recipe for disaster. News Nation's Brona Tumulty joins us now from the event. Brona, how have the crowds been, and what are you hearing from them? Are people concerned?
Good evening, Joe. Yeah, we were talking to some of the people down here today. It's been a little quieter here today, but it has been filling up slowly over the last few hours. 100,000 people each day at the festival. So obviously, as the Delta variant has been some concern. The people we've spoken to, though, there is some concern, but they're not overly worried about the whole thing. Health officials here in Chicago have been saying to us that they've been attributing about 44% of COVID cases to the Delta variant. It's not considered to be the dominant strain here in the city, but it is predicted it will be in the coming weeks. One of the groups that we spoke with had come in from all different parts of the country. They said that they were vaccinated. However, just to be extra cautious, they got negative tests before flying here, and they plan on getting negative tests again when they return to their respective cities. Another group told us that they were surprised to see quite a few people wearing masks. We didn't see too many today, but they said they'd seen quite a few people wearing them, especially amongst the crowds.
Brona, can you hear me? Yeah, I think we had a little trouble with your interview there, Brona. But I'm wondering, I know you had to either show proof of vaccination to get in or have a negative test. Can you give us an idea how many of those showing up are vaccinated? Have they released that?
Sorry, Joe. Yeah, I think we're having some technical difficulties at the moment. But yes, you're right. If you're coming to the festival, you need to show a negative test that happened within the previous 72 hours. Or you can show your vaccination card and show that you got your jabs already. We know that the organizers tweeted out around this time yesterday that 90% of the people who came to the festival yesterday had their proof of vaccination, had those vaccination cards. About 8% had a negative test with them. 600 people showed up without paperwork and had to be turned away. We're still waiting on numbers to be tweeted out today, and we'll update you guys when we can.
All right, Brona Tumulty, thank you for the update. Enjoy the weekend and Lollapalooza as much as you can while you're working. Thanks for the report. Well, we've talked a lot about COVID-19 restrictions today, and one thing a lot of people are wondering about is what it means for kids, specifically whether it's going to impact the back-to-school schedule in the fall. And as we know, they will be expected to wear masks in many places. Joining me now with more on that is News Nation's Brian Enton. Brian?
Joe, we're outside Nicholas Children's Hospital in Miami. This is sort of the big children's hospital in this part of Florida. And they say they have seen an increase in COVID cases with kids, about 25 to 50% increase over the last month or so. But they were clear with me today, the doctors here, that overall kids do handle COVID quite well. Less than 1% actually need to be hospitalized. Still, though, like we're seeing the increase in cases with adults, there is now the increase in cases with kids. We talked today with an 11-year-old little girl and her mom here at the hospital. This is a little girl who was very healthy before this. She had no pre-existing medical conditions, and now she's been in the hospital here for the last 5 days.
There was this one time I had a really high fever, and I felt really bad. I felt like I couldn't stand up.
It's very crazy, you know. I think it can change from one day to another. Nobody really knows what can happen, you know.
You can imagine how scary it is for that little girl, Sophia's parents. Both of her parents say they were vaccinated. Sophia was not vaccinated because she is 11 years old, about to turn 12, and of course you have to be 12 to get the vaccine. Joe?
Okay, heartbreaking. Brian, thank you very much live for us tonight. President Biden says his hands are tied. The pandemic's national eviction moratorium is set to expire tomorrow. He was calling for Congress to step in and help, and there was an effort to try to do that up until the last minute today, but that effort has failed. They were talking about potentially extending it another 3 months or 6 months, but again, that is not going to happen. We found that out just about a half an hour ago. Altagracia Pierre Outerbridge is a landlord and tenant attorney in New York. Altagracia, thank you for your time. Despite this effort now, looks like this will expire, the moratorium, tomorrow. And I think in order to put this into perspective for people, this could impact millions of people starting tomorrow.
Absolutely, Joe, and thank you for having me. We know that about 7.4 million people in the U.S. are behind on rent, so it is a massive amount of people that will be affected by the end of this moratorium.
So what happens tomorrow? For our folks who are behind on the rent, can they expect, the note on the door saying you're evicted? Do they have options? Can they try to at least negotiate with the landlord?
Absolutely. So there are many options still. One of the main options is that some states have passed extension to this eviction moratorium, so the states can still act even if the federal government has not acted, right? So at least in New York, we know that the moratorium has about 30 more days. Our moratorium in New York ends on August 31st, 2021. In New Jersey is January 2022. So the states can actually take action and pass this moratorium. Something else that renters can do is to actually apply for the rental assistance that's around. There's about $47 billion in rental assistance, mostly from the feds, that is actually flowing and should be flowing. So renters could apply for that.
So the moratorium was on evictions, and this is an important point, Altagracia. This is not rent forgiveness, correct? I mean, in most of these cases, these folks are not getting a break on their rent. They're going to still have to pay, in fact, the back rent.
Correct. No, it is not a break on rent. It's actually stopping the marshal, the sheriff from locking your door. It's actually stopping the court system from determining that you are evictable and issuing an order for your eviction. So it's really stopped the legal process.
Yeah, when you talk about the numbers that we have, Altagracia, I'm wondering what you think the impact this could have potentially on people who are not only forced out, but forced onto the street.
Correct. So, I mean, it would be a massive, shelter, right? Massive shelter, massive homelessness. As you know, eviction affects all areas of life, right? Your home is really where if you're evicted, your health is at stake. Your children's schooling, your work, your ability to work consistently. So being evicted really affects you in every single way, as well as your family.
I know you represent landlords as well. I'm curious, in many cases, they're not getting the rent from the tenants, so they're having to cover the mortgage themselves. What if they can't? And have you heard from landlords who are struggling as well as tenants are to pay the bills?
Absolutely. We get calls at our New York office. We get calls daily from small landlords, large landlords saying I'm owed $40,000, $50,000, $200,000 in rent, right? So at least in New York, the landlords can themselves apply for the rental assistance on behalf of the tenant, right? Landlords can start eviction proceedings as long as their state doesn't have an extended moratorium. And even in New York, despite the extended moratorium, landlords can actually proceed in court if the tenant has not submitted a hardship affidavit, meaning that they are seeking a personal extension to the moratorium due to a hardship caused by COVID.
So who in the end is sort of left holding the bag, Altagracia? Because we've mentioned the tenants are struggling to pay the bills. As a result, the landlords are having a hard time paying their bills. Are the banks giving the landlords a break at all on this, or are they demanding their money as well?
I mean, no, I haven't heard that the banks are giving landlords any break, right? Yeah. So who's left holding the bag? I mean, I would actually say both sides. I think no one wants to be in that situation. Neither a tenant, it sours the relationship, nor does a landlord want to be in the situation. So ultimately, there will be some rent abatement. There will be massive rent abatements or reductions in rent for landlords who actually get some of the rent that they're owed so that they can keep functioning.
Before we go, Altagracia, one piece of advice you might give to a tenant in particular. You mentioned trying to get a hold of some of this housing aid that's out there, but Beyond that, what would you suggest? Maybe trying to talk to the landlord, especially if you have a good relationship with them?
Absolutely. Always I'll talk to your landlord, especially if you have a long-term relationship with him or her. I would also say find out what your rights are, your specific state rights, right? At least in New York, you can submit a hardship affidavit saying that you cannot be evicted for health or financial hardship reasons. I would also add to that you should, tenants should form tenants associations, really get together and stick together. My final tip would really be to get an attorney, whether it's a paid attorney or a free lawyer. Seek out legal help to represent you in court if you are brought to court.
Well, it's certainly eye-opening when you realize millions of people will be going to bed tonight wondering what tomorrow will bring with the expiration of this moratorium on evictions. Altagracia Pierre Outerbridge, tenant and landlord attorney, we appreciate your time. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
U.S. Representative Henry Cuellar joined Senator Lindsey Graham in calling on President Biden to appoint a border czar, the two laying out their calls for help as well in an extensive news conference this morning.
We're urging President Biden to create a special position to bring order to chaos, put somebody in charge whose focus is just on the border and all the problems associated with it, that would have credibility in the eyes of Congress, and that's Jay Johnson.
You don't have to listen to me. I want you to listen to the border communities, and I want you to listen to the men and women of DHS, their families. This weekend, I just spent about 3 hours with agents and their families and their chiefs there, especially their families, and they don't need pats in the back. They need help down there on the border.
In a letter to President Biden and DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, Cuellar and Graham cited the spread of the Delta variant at the country's southern border as another reason behind their plea. Jay Johnson, by the way, a former DHS secretary, served during former U.S. President Barack Obama's second term. Coming up here for us, L.A. is spending big to fight its homeless problem. Will it be enough? And there's also a big change coming from the city council there. And did the women's Olympic soccer team keep their hopes for gold alive? That's coming up as well. The streets of Los Angeles, California could look quite different soon. Known for its large homeless population, the city has just approved a measure banning homeless encampments near schools, parks, libraries, and more. The measure's been met with mixed response, though. Some arguing the ordinance makes the city safer, others saying it criminalizes homelessness. Opponents have even gone so far as to vandalize Mayor Eric Garcetti's house. There's a lot going on in L.A., and when there is, we like to bring in our friend Mo Kelly, the host of the Mo Kelly Show in L.A. So, Mo, I saw the protesters outside City Hall after that vote this week. Others say these sidewalk tents are taking over cities. Do you think this plan will work?
We may not even see whether this plan will work because Mayor Eric Garcetti is basically on his way to India, and the city council will appoint an interim mayor, and that interim mayor can just rescind anything that Mayor Garcetti has chosen. That's one thing. And also, we don't know if the LA County District Attorney, George Gascon, who's also up against a recall campaign, will enforce this, because when he came into office, he made it very clear that he was not going to enforce the standing laws and what was on the books as far as criminalizing homelessness. And so we don't know whether this is actually going to happen. And there's another facet to this, where the LA County Sheriff and the LAPD are in a sort of a turf war as far as what jurisdiction the LA County Sheriff has as far as enforcing any of this. So it's a mess, for lack of a better word.
So who's replacing the mayor while he's gone? How long is he gone? And couldn't he just put it back in place when he's back?
No. He's going as ambassador to India. So he is gone altogether.
Okay.
So there will be an interim mayor up until the reelection of a full-time mayor, if you will, in 2022, which falls in line with the midterms nationally. So Eric Garcetti is a paper tiger and a lame duck, if you will, if you excuse the parlance.
Sure. Is there an indication that this could happen then, Mo? And if so, let's say that it stays in place. You've got, I looked up today, somewhere around 40,000 homeless in L.A. That's not including L.A. County. Where were all these people on the street supposed to go?
Yeah, and that's the thing. There are people who want to end homelessness, and there are people who want to end seeing homeless people in front of them or around their house. And unfortunately, homelessness has been weaponized in this political climate and environment. And you have Governor Gavin Newsom, who recently signed and allocated $12 billion a couple of weeks ago. And Mayor Garcetti, to his credit, also allocated $1 billion about 3 months ago. So it's not necessarily a funding issue. It's about how it's going to be spent and whether there is a long-term plan between city and also county and also state, which can deal with 1/10 of the nation's homelessness problem right here in Los Angeles County.
Well, we will certainly keep an eye on that. Meantime, let's shift over to this recall that you mentioned. You mentioned Gavin Newsom. Last time you and I talked, Mo, he was looking pretty safe. But there's some new polling out that shows that things have certainly tightened up. One of them has 48% to keep him, 43% to recall. Another had him at 50% to stay and 47% to out. So, again, it's definitely tightened up. Do you still think he's safe?
I think he's safe, but at the same time, you can't necessarily predict anything. I personally don't put a lot of stock in polls because they're a snapshot of a moment, and who knows what California and Los Angeles specifically, which is going to have a large say in this, is going to look like going back to the homelessness issue in a month and a half. And also, it's a very high wall for Republicans to get over. They need disaffected Democrats and also lazy Democrats to stay home, disaffected Democrats to come on over and vote to recall Governor Newsom, because within the state, the Democrats have a tremendous numerical advantage, and that is what makes it very difficult. But it is trending in a negative direction for Governor Gavin Newsom. So if I were him, I'd be concerned.
All right, Mo Kelly from the Mo Kelly Show. It's always good to see you, my friend. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Well, it was all smiles on the medal podium, but after losing 2 races in Tokyo, American backstroker Ryan Murphy, seen on the left here with a silver medal, saying he thought the games were probably not clean, suggesting Russians, including the gold medalist who beat him, were doping. He later walked back those comments, but the controversy remained. Let's welcome in Mike Bako, managing editor of DailyNational.com. Mike, the Russians have been caught doping before. In fact, that's why they're called the ROC in these games, right? Did Murphy just call them out again? I think you're muted. You got us, Mike?
Yep, I got you.
There
right
we go.
Here. Yevgeny Rylov is actually racing under the Russian Olympic Confederate, not as a Russian. So what Murphy is really saying is, hey, I won in 2016. I won all 3 of my backstroke races. Now, this is a great competitor. This is one of my main rivals, but he's really calling out not only this particular racer, but the entire sort of understanding of what the Russians have been doing for many, many years, been called out many, many times, had many, many medals taken away from them.
Right. What can you tell us about the testing policy, Mike? And regardless, are we naive to think the games are clean?
Well, I think when you think about the Olympic testing, one thing that you have to realize is that multiple samples are tested, and then they go back and they keep these samples for many, many years. This is how the Russians were actually caught. So when you think about what happens in these specific Olympics right now, no one has been tested positive. But that's the beauty, or the crime, if you will, of what the Russians have been able to do for so many years, figuring out ways to get past these. They're on the cutting edge. The cheaters are usually on the cutting edge of beating these tests. The tests can't catch up to the cheaters.
So overall, the U.S. is doing well. The last I checked, I think we're still leading in the medal count, but it's close. Does it feel to you, though, like we're struggling a little bit? In the pool, you see the women's soccer team here. They lost their opener. The basketball team lost their opener. The soccer team had to go to penalties today, I guess, to win.
And certainly on the gymnastics side of things. So if you put that all together, and just the waning interest of the American public, if you just look at the TV ratings, way down, upwards of 10 million less viewers than the last Summer Games. But yes, if you actually just look at it statistically, yes, we are in the lead in terms of the most medal counts, but we are struggling. Women's gymnastics, men's basketball team probably will win the gold if they are able to put everything together, but certainly off to a bad start across the board. Not that dominant out of the gate effort that you expect from the U.S. team in many sports.
Yeah, let's talk about some baseball here, Mike. Today was the trade deadline, and the Cubs basically traded everyone, even the bat boy.
They traded away their 2016 historic world championship team. So if you are a Cub fan, you're basically starting at ground zero again. You're losing Javier Baez, you're losing Chris Bryant, you're losing Anthony Rizzo. All of those players that when you think back and you tell your grandkids about them winning the 2016 World Championship, all those players are gone. And then also, if you look across in the National League, if you look at the Washington Nationals, their World Series championship team, Trey Turner, Max Scherzer, those guys, Kyle Schwarber, who was not on that championship team, but they're all traded away. So a lot of movement, the rich getting richer, the Yankees getting players, the Mets getting players, and the Dodgers getting players.
All right, college football, Texas and Oklahoma heading to the SEC, it appears, with players getting paid as well, this new super conference. Do you think college football, as we knew it, has changed for good?
It is changed. It is gone. Anytime that the coach of the Alabama football team, Nick Saban, can say that his freshman quarterback who's not played a game already has close to $1 million in what they call licensing fees, NILs, that has changing the game. TV revenue changing the game. These super conferences changing the game. And really, that plural to super conferences, it may just become a super conference in a few years. The SEC, obviously, the dominant with these teams moving over.
Mike, we just have 10 seconds left, but Russell Westbrook goes to the Lakers. Are they the favorite?
They are not the favorite. Bad move. This is going to blow up in their face.
Interesting. Who's the favorite? Milwaukee still?
Well, Milwaukee and the Nets. The Nets are going to come back with 3 healthy players. They're probably still going to be the favorites.
All right. Mike Bako, thanks for your time. Have a great weekend.
My pleasure.
Coming up, we'll send you off with one Olympian's creative way to keep her dreams for gold alive. And don't forget to follow us on social media at The Donlon Report on Twitter. On the way out tonight, a story from Tokyo and the perfect example of brain and brawn. Ahead of her event, Australian canoeer Jess Fox had to make some repairs to her canoe, and like any good craftsman, or in this case craftswoman, she used the tools at her disposal. Fox showed off the repairs on TikTok using Olympic-issued condoms to repair her boat. Fox said the condom's stretchy latex gives the carbon a smooth finish. Condoms are nothing new at the Games, of course. 160,000 were issued this year to promote safe sex. Fox went on to win gold in the women's C1 canoe slalom and bronze in the canoe slalom K1 final. That reminds me of the old joke. Leland, I don't know if you've heard this, but as a golfer, you might have. Why do golfers use 2 condoms?
I'm not doing this. Not going here. No idea.
In case they get a hole-in-one.
On that note, great show, Joe.
So if I'm not here Monday, you'll know why. See you later.